Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Greetings, family, and welcome back to Raising the Vibe. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I ask that you like this video because it's going to be very informative, and I ask that you subscribe to the channel. Now, today, we're going to be talking about the Georgia Guidestones. I imagine a good number of you may already be familiar with them, but given everything that's been going on over the last couple of years and that's starting to happen now in 2022, I think it's a good idea just to revisit them, to remind you of what the details are about the Georgia Guidestones. And then for those of you who are not familiar with them, this will be a great opportunity for you to learn about them. So strap up and let's get started. So first, let's start with a picture of the Guidestones. Take a look at them. All right, so the Georgia Guidestones were erected in 1980. So that's about 40 years ago now. They're in Eberton, Georgia, which is out in the boondocks, as Black folks would say, and about 90 miles from Atlanta. They are made from granite. They're 16 feet tall, and the 5 stones are arranged in an X shape, as you can see here. Essentially, it's like 4 wings surrounding a central stone. There is also a capstone, a stone on top of the structure. Those 4 slabs have 10 different principles, I guess you could call them, or goals, or maybe even rules. And on each side, those 10 rules are written in a different language for a total of 8 languages. And those languages are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. So those are the 8 languages. A few feet away over to the side is another tablet or stone. Take a look at it. It says, "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason." Very ominous, right? And it's boxed and it's surrounded by these ancient languages: Babylonian cuneiform, Sanskrit, classical Greek, and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Okay? Now, it is said that the United Nations provided the translations for the 10 precepts on the stones, which I find very significant as well. So we'll go over what the 10 precepts are, but first let's talk about some things that are interesting about this. There is a whole entire hokey story about how in 1979, an elegantly dressed man who identified himself as Robert C. Christian walked into the offices of a granite company in Elberton, all right? The name of that company was the Elberton Granite Finishing Company. And one of the significant things about Elberton is that it's known for granite. Other than that, nothing. Like I said, way out in the boonies. So this Robert Christian identifies himself as the representative of a small group of loyal Americans. And so he tells the president of this company that he wants to build this structure, which is going to be made of 16-foot stones. And he told him that the structure would have to function as a compass, a calendar, and a clock, which the Guidestones do. And he also said that the structure would have to be able to withstand both man-made and natural disaster. So the company president, of course, thought that Robert Christian is half psycho and quoted him some outrageous price. And so the story goes, Christian said yes, and they moved on and they were in business. And they go so far with this hokey story about how the Guidestones were arranged for that they even have it on this plaque that is near or at the site. So the story goes on that this Christian guy admits that that's really just a pseudonym. He goes to the local banker and they transact business, and he has to identify himself at the bank, but the banker promised never to reveal that. Some old hokey story. Do I think all of that part is true? Absolutely not. These people, as we've been seeing from previous videos and all the videos that I have in store for 2022, they lie just as soon as they would take a breath or drink a sip of water or say hello. So no, I don't believe that. But that's the interesting hokey story that they tell about the Guidestones. But let me show you this picture revealing the astronomical features of the structure as I tell you what those requirements are. Fascinating. So the first astronomical requirement was that there be a channel through the stone that indicates the celestial pole. And we can see here that the center stone has an eye-level oblique hole drilled so that the North Star is always visible. See that? And then the second astronomical feature or requirement was a horizontal slot that indicates annual travel of sun. And we see there that slot right alongside either side of that hole that is always aligned with the sun's solstices and equinoxes. And then the third astronomical feature or requirement was that there be a sunbeam through the capstone, which marks noontime throughout the year. So here I'm showing you pictures of the slit that is located in the top capstone. And here's another picture of the sun shining through that slot at noon. Very interesting. Now, as a reminder, take another look at the stones. I'm going to show the English one with the actual words on it because now I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to read what they are. So as you can see here, number one is maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. 500 million people in perpetual balance with nature. 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. 3, unite humanity with a living new language. 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. 6, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials. 8, balance personal rights with social duties. 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And 10, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. Pretty interesting, huh? As you can imagine, the stones have raised all kinds of controversies, conspiracy theories, and the sort. But let's just look at the precepts. I'm going to call them precepts. Let's look at the 10 precepts. Number 1, to maintain humanity under 500 million people. Right now, we have more than 7.9 billion people on this earth. Okay? Let that sink in. We have about, I looked at that running clock before I made this video, and it was like 7,930 and keep ticking million. And they want to maintain humanity under 500 million. Now, some are saying these are for post-apocalyptic times, but whatever times they're for, how can it be beneficial if we believe the Bible at all? Or let's go with that. If we believe the Bible at all, that we were told to go forth, be fruitful and multiply. If we believe that this earth was created for humans to inhabit, and we have almost 8 billion people now, and they want to have less than 500 million, that's eerie. That's concerning, okay? Guide reproduction wisely. That's number 2. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. First of all, that's ominous and sinister. What does guide reproduction mean? And that in conjunction with the 500 million limit on the number of people, does that mean deciding who can and who cannot have children, how many they can have? With the techniques we have today, does that mean selecting certain traits in order to improve fitness and diversity? I mean, it's clearly overreaching. It clearly sounds like some group trying to put themselves in the creator's place, to be the divine creator. I'm not a fan. I don't agree. And it sounds harmful. Number 3, unite humanity with a living new language. The only thing that raises to me is the fact that the intent here is for a global population, a global society, all speaking one new language, which clearly is very different from how we're operating now. Number 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. They're going to be ruling over faith. Does that mean creating a global religion or spirituality? I don't know. I mean, these words are very ambiguous and capable of meaning a lot of different things, many of which are just not good for humanity from my perspective. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. I mean, I guess. Let all nations rule internally, resolving conflicts, and then have for external issues a world court, I guess. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Count me in with that. Balance personal rights with social duties. That again is a bit thorny, because if you have personal rights, does that mean that if you're not fulfilling what some consider to be your social duties, your rights can be infringed? That's of concern. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. That's fine so long as we're talking about the same infinite, and I'm not sure with how creepy all of this is. And then be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. I think with only 500 million people, that's really not a problem. And I think that probably the same people or some faction of them who had this structure created are the same ones that are at war with and destroying nature now. So I would just say, take your own advice now. Of course, with a mysterious structure like this coming about by way of a group of people who were anonymous and hid behind somebody using a pseudonym and having these cryptic and potentially far-reaching precepts engraved in all of these languages on them, has opened this up to a number of different theories about what's going on. And I'll just mention a few. One, of course, right off the bat, people are calling them satanic. In particular, some people were referring to Revelations chapter 13, verses 7 through 8, where it says, "And authority was given to the beast over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth will worship it," so on and so forth. And so they're looking at these guidestones as kind of being the rules for a period of time when that's happening, pointing to the one world system, the one world language, and presumably the one world religion. Other people try to minimize the sinister aspects of the Georgia Guidestones by pointing out that they were constructed in 1980, which was during the Cold War, which was when the threat of nuclear war was always hanging overhead, and that these are merely instructions for how to function in a post-apocalyptic society as opposed to something sinister. And so the final theory I'll share about these Guidestones is that it has been alleged that the stones were a Club of Rome project. And the Club of Rome supposedly was founded by David Rockefeller in 1968, along with the United Nations, as tools to promote global government. It is said that members of the club include CNN founder Ted Turner, George Soros, who actually I'll do a video about at some point, Henry Kissinger, Bill Gates, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, and Prince Philip, and a number of other people. Now, of course, there's no direct evidence connecting these Guidestones to the Club of Rome, but it's just a theory. And it is said that the Club of Rome members are the people that we now refer to as the global elite. The elite, you know, we all know who those are now. It's said that at the time the Guidestones were created, the goals of the Club of Rome were global government facilitated by depopulation, world religion, and environmentalism at the expense of humanity. It is in line with what the precepts on the Georgia Guidestones are, but it's also the case that that theory could have been created based on, of course, what those precepts are. But it's just something to think about. Oh, and the fact that the Guidestones were translated by the United Nations allegedly does sort of play into that. In any event, these are the Georgia Guidestones. I hope that you found this video informative, and I also hope that this video, along with the future videos I'm intending to present, have made you think differently, or made you question maybe what's going on, opened up your mind to the possibility that things perhaps are not what we've always been told they are. And that if you didn't know about the Georgia Guidestones, it informed you about them. And if you did know about them, perhaps it shed new light on them, new details, so that we can all think about that in these current times of pandemics and shots and everything that's going on. I'd be very interested, as always, to know what you think about the information presented. So please feel free to drop a comment. I'll be happy to respond. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, peace and love, love and light, family.